enough of that. It's ISC time. This is a yapping about server meshing episode where they're going to tell us about how well it went. 6 months later, they're going to tell us how well it went and tell us how it's going to go going forward. So take everything here with a grain of salt, I would say, but hopefully it's a good episode. Let's see.
The Core Technology Group. Bunch of big brains found in all 5 of our studios. These are the folks that have been working to expand Star Citizen.
Okay, so far reusing the B-roll from the last time. I think he said
beyond
he didn't have
the
any
limitations
B-roll.
of the traditional client-server model. To distribute what would have been the work of a single server across many. This work has many parts, but the collective name for all the technologies that allow this to happen, we call simply server meshing.
2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. We just watched a video of Ash's creation where 8 people made server meshing. This is 12.
Beginning late last year, the newly created Tech Preview channel was used for a series of tests. And while the work of server meshing is that of our entire development staff, toiling in concert with the Core Technology Group, we asked members of the small but dedicated UK networking team to speak on their behalf. This is Dev Diary Server Meshing.
All right. I'm actually excited for this. But I won't put much weight in what's said.
Yeah, that was a nerve-wracking one for us because it was the first time, going out public with such a big fundamental change for how we run the game.
Application layer network code split out from the dedicated game server, running in its own service that we call the hybrid service.
So these tests are not just for us in Cortec. These are also for the game side as well, so they can actually see their systems functioning along with server meshing. It's kind of one cohesive whole.
So that was the first time trying to deploy that kind of environment, which is radically different from what we've had to do before. One of the major purposes of Tech Preview.
Is this a new video or old? If they're telling us about what the purpose of the Tech Preview channel is, it is old, but it's just a new guy saying it.
Is to expose the game to a much wider audience so that the rest of the development team can see more of their work exposed, really help us pick up on all the little corner and edge cases that we don't necessarily spot if we only have a handful of people testing.
So it's really good to, have other development teams look at the tech from, a development perspective and on a live environment as well.
In Alpha 3.18, we introduced the replication layer, our first major milestone towards server meshing. It offloaded the entire state of the universe, things like characters, ships, weapons, and more, away from the game server, which we call the DGS. It wasn't the smoothest process, but the work of splitting the replication layer to be shared between the client and EGS into a new hybrid service still needed to be done, as was testing of a brand new server crash recovery system that was long overdue. These would be the focus of our first 2 Tech Preview tests, and everyone was excited to learn everything we could with help from the community.
Basically, we learned that it worked.
Went surprisingly well for us.
Yeah, it was great fun.
Yeah, good job. It works.
We learned that, the technology was working kind of as we expected. It was surprising how well it actually worked.
For the backers, the major change that they would have observed through these tests was the improvement for server crash recovery. So the first outing with server crash recovery, we were talking...
It's weird though, like in Evo, we get crash recovery, but then it immediately would turn into a 30K a lot. And I still feel like we've been getting more 30Ks lately. I think it worked well in the short term, but long term, there was also issues that showed up later more often, but still better than what we had before. So I'm not complaining about it.
25, 30-minute recovery times, frequent crashes all over the place.
It's almost like we're pulling the tablecloth out from underneath everybody at once. So it requires people to make some interesting considerations and kind of shimmy that tablecloth back underneath with the new server.
So if the server crashes, the game state still survives. We can spin up another server, and when it connects again, the new server connects again. it can get all the game state back and clients can continue on their merry way.
Basically server meshing for game code all at once in like one big giant transition.
But I think by the time we were getting to this, second and third tests, we're starting to see things dramatically quicker and dramatically more reliable.
Yeah, I think I was probably expecting it to explode. Yeah, pretty hard. But we were surprised that the game code worked as well as it did without needing change.
He's the most American out of all of them. That way, like, he's American. I don't know.
Backers have a way of finding and breaking things. So yeah, having a good few hours testing in backers' hands in a more or less real-world environment was incredibly valuable.
Of course, this is still game development, and these were tests not just for the core technology group, but for every other dev team to see just how much work they still had ahead of them. Work that continues today, adapting all of Star Citizen's various game systems to the realities of server meshing.
We found that there were some gameplay systems that weren't quite ready for server crash recovery, that could cause some issues when a server crashes and one takes its place. So that kind of allowed us to kind of create a bunch of bugs and send them out to various gameplay teams.
What's cyclical crashing?
Basically, when the server then tries to recover, start back up, it would then deserialize the state that we had stored previously, and the state itself was corrupt, so it would just crash, and it would just keep trying.
Basically, it replicated the thing that was causing its crash, is what was happening, and it would just crash over and over and over again. We've actually kind of been seeing that in Evo.
Annoying. A lot of people were like, let's turn off server crash recovery, that's the problem, when actually, no, it wasn't the problem. It was just the state it was in. When it is working, it works very well.
Star Citizen is a large, complex game. Every little bit of it across core tech and the actual game system has to function perfectly for server meshing to work. The test allowed us to point to parts of the code where things didn't function, so we could go back to the game teams and say, you need to go back and you need to rework this particular system.
Being able to allow the replication layer to kind of soak is kind of how we were able to get it from basically having things work for the first time to a production-ready product.
Making sure that we were in a good state so that we could progress with the next set of tech preview tests.
It had worked twice now?
Yes, yeah, the overconfidence was starting to grow, yes.
With 2 successful trials in the can, the team broke for the holidays, returning.
At what stage are we at this? Have we done the server meshing test yet? Because we really haven't had anything since the server meshing
in January
test.
With
I want to hear what the excuse is for that, to be honest.
More tests, more fixes, more bugs to discover, and even improvements to the very manner in which we collected and analyzed data itself.
At this point now, it's not only about just getting server crash recovery working, but we're really starting to see changes come in from the game teams for the various systems that interact with it.
Yeah,
so
the documentary vibes of this is, yeah, it's a vibe.
Those early tests, people would have seen, a loss of state for certain systems or things that just didn't recover well. If you ended up in, a weird condition where, let's just say you were in the middle of respawning during a server crash.
But this is when we were noticing,
I like it. But when you know what it's about, like when you're seeing what it's about and yeah, it's just, it feels goofy. That's all. Like it's good if the context was something different, I would say.
A lot of major spikes, and a player tries to interact with a door or a ship or tries to pick up something, and they could be waiting several minutes for something to actually happen. But then it was also other game code as well. Other teams, send in sort of like serialized variables and messages across the network. Some of them were like being...
I saw people saying that I was lying when I talked about the server meshing test with the several minutes to interact with things. I was called a liar about that. Am I a liar now? Like, first off, I streamed it. Everybody saw it. Second, now we have confirmation from people that work at the company. I guess I'm a liar, though.
sent twice, which
The fucking cult that is this
is
community.
not ideal, because if we're sending messages twice, we only need to send it once. Then we've got 2 messages being sent, which is, you know, the backlog or the queue is just going to get busier a lot quicker. So between now and then, you know, data, analytics, metrics, making sure that the development team have the information that they need when they request it as well, and having our back-end dashboard set up so information is correct and not incorrect, because we don't want to provide incorrect results.
We're starting to see fixes for those kind of strange cases start to come in. So the overall experience at this point now would have been much more solid.
Okay.
At this point, after a series of necessary wins and a reconfiguration of our analytics dashboard,
This is so goofy.
with clients and servers now both connecting to the hybrid service,
Like, what is this, down the rabbit hole?
ready to put an end to the DGS crashes causing players to get disconnected, it was time to move to the next major milestone. Testing configurations of multiple DGSs connected to the same hybrid service. Or put simply,
Who got murdered? I know. Like, is it him? Like, what is the twist? I'm waiting for the twist. Who did it with the pipe in the living room? it's funny. It's actually really good production, but it's just it's weird because it's about tech in a video game that doesn't exist. It's so weird.
our first true server mesh.
The next milestone in our tech preview testing was February 29th, which was the first time that we attempted to have 2 solar systems running on 2 DGSs connected to the same hybrid service, and clients basically able to connect through them, choose which solar system they wanted to play in,
I did this.
and go and play.
So this one was the big surprise.
This one went really well on my end. My experience was really, really good. It had its issues, but it was really, really good.
So we were really excited to finally get multiple DGSs and multiple solar systems out there into the hands of the backers for testing. And also this was a huge milestone for the platform teams, because it's their first time having to deploy a full-on server mesh with multiple DGSs out to our live environment. That was a super exciting test.
We still had the single hybrid, which for us, having a single hybrid manage the state of multiple servers was a huge, huge milestone. And with those, there may have been some bugs, some interestingness. Being able to see crash recovery actually occur and then succeed on the Pyro server really proved to us that we're kind of getting to that kind of milestone point.
We had tried it internally first, but yeah, with the tech previews, it tends to be pretty hot. What you see is the build that we've created the day before. It's kind of a bit of a wing and a prayer to hope that it is actually going to work. We got a lot of data about our performance, and it all seems to be holding up pretty well.
You keep saying surprisingly well. Were you expecting this to just fall in its face?
Yes, I've been working in games a long time, and for things to work first time is very unusual. So yeah, I was fully expecting something to explode and for us to have to patch something up.
There's a little bit of anxiety, I feel, with teams that we never tried anything quite like this before, and the tech might not actually cope with it, and then we might.
This is like, this guy gets on Twitter too. He's super positive, super happy, super fun. Seems really engaged with the community as well. This guy's really awesome.
To cancel the test. Things, thankfully, went really, really, really well. Generally speaking, when we tested server meshing stuff out, it's tended to behave better than people expected at the time. So yeah, we've kind of gotten lucky with some of this stuff.
However,
I forgot his name,
as
though,
awesome as
sadly.
it was to finally see 2 star systems running on the same DGS,
The murder
there was
mystery
still
continues.
one last-minute disappointment for every member of the team.
Hold on, like the music. Can we go back? Can we go back? The music too. Can we just like listen to the music? It actually seems like a murder mystery.
So yeah, we've kind of gotten lucky with some of this stuff.
However, as awesome as it was to finally see 2 star systems running on the same DGS, there was still one last-minute disappointment for every member of the team.
Unfortunately, we had a last-minute issue with the jump points that meant they weren't quite going to make it for that test.
Originally, we were trying to make it so that the jump gates were functional, and you could have done solar system transitions via the jump gates.
I did,
We
though.
didn't manage to make that in time.
I remember being very upset that jump points decided not to work at the last minute.
Oh, they decided not to work at the last minute. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
But there was an issue with the jump points where if someone used it, the radius to pull in people from the server to go to Pyro was essentially the size of the universe. So if you used the jump point, everyone in Stanton was going to Pyro whether they wanted to or not.
What?
And so you had so how did you enforce people not using it?
I don't actually remember. I think it was just said, no, don't.
Yeah, they said don't use it. That's what they said. And basically it crashed the server, I think, when you used it. It caused a crash. I remember that's what they said. They said, please don't use it.
And the people behaved?
If I remember, only one person
most people
tried it and it broke, so nothing happened, which very lucky.
Yeah.
And then, only a week later, on March 7th,
people were good.
the first successful test of a jump point assisted server transition occurred.
For us in the UK, the tech preview releases tend to go out like 11 midnight kind of time. And I stayed up and hopped on to kind of give it a look, and the excitement that we had from being able to like actually.
Serious question. Why? Why do we complain about concurrency in our fucking playtests and release patches at midnight EU time when you can have plenty of concurrency if you delivered them primetime EU time, and like just whatever you had done last minute to try to get up that night, put it up the next day? Why don't we do that? Like, I get it if it's like, all right, it's coming in hot, but like, can we deliver it on the next day so everybody can play it that day? And then you don't have to worry about concurrency as much? I never understood that.
Actually see us, like thousands of players in a queue, jump through the jump points, and for things to work with minimal issues is a very exciting time for us.
I sat by the Pyro jump gate, watching the first backers come through from Stanton. Myself, a whole bunch of the team were online watching that happen.
I think they gather data and fix everything on the next day. Yeah, did you hear what I said, though? They complain about concurrency a lot. Okay, so Proxys is here, and he's somebody who does, like, he's a part of this process. So this is like a relevant answer. Real answer is because we're getting the builds too late in the day. This is why we hate having to take things down early. It's far more preferable to pick up the EU concurrency the next day and morning. What did I say? Okay, I don't know how. I must have said something weird because chat's being weird. I don't know how I said it. Real answer is because we're getting the builds too late in the day. This is why we're having to take things down early, and it's far more preferable to pick up the EU concurrency the next morning and day. I just don't know why. If you're getting the build late in the day, get it all. Like, what I don't understand about game development and what I'm trying to ask is, okay, you get it late in the day. Why don't you package that up and have it ready to go and launch it in the morning? And then you have a full 24-hour, like a full 12, 16-hour period where your concurrency could be more stabilized throughout the day, where you have EU prime time, where you have like Australian, Asian prime time, EU prime time, American prime time, and then you gather all the data, and then you're done. And then you go next day. It would take too long? Is that wasted time? Is that why? Because we still get data overnight for the UK to work on for the first thing in the morning. I just think okay, that's great, but you complain about concurrency a lot, the company. So it might just be more efficient regardless of concurrency, I guess. Okay.
Amazing to see it. Kind of culmination of years of work by
you're wasting a UK
dozens of
workday.
teams and hundreds of people.
I
remember being really happy because everyone was
I just wanted
thrilled.
to understand it.
All the backers were really thrilled that they actually saw it themselves. I remember the players going through the gate and smashing into each other on the other side.
Yep, that happened.
They would just come out of the gate and somebody would be parked there from having just come through, and they would crash into each other.
Yep.
They would spin out. It was really funny.
Yeah, it was pretty great.
It didn't
having
matter,
people
though.
actually be able to do it. Something
Like it didn't matter, dude. It was awesome. That was like an emotional experience.
been waiting
for
for God knows how long.
Seeing people actually use the jump gates for the first time, that was like really exciting. That I think brought home to the community at large that this was actually server meshing, that we're actually doing the real tech here, and it.
Was there a jump animation though? I'm not sure what you're asking, but like we jumped into a white box tunnel that was like kind of closed, but not really closed. And you can kind of see the skybox in Pyro immediately when you went through it. Yeah, you would enter the jump gate backwards. So you would be looking where you were coming from. There was all sorts of goofy things. And the game was completely in control of your ship. You had no control over your ship. So you went through the jump gate, and it did it all on its own. But it didn't matter. It had nothing to do with the way it experienced. It had everything to do with, dude, I was just in Stanton and now I'm in Pyro. Holy fucking shit. This is insane. Like that's all I needed.
It actually works, and yeah. We knew it all along, but yeah, it told everybody else that yeah, we're doing the real deal here.
Yeah, I knew it would.
Oh, you knew it would work.
In that run-up, we tested nothing but the jump gates, because that was our focus, so.
QA is so cynical that if they say it works,
It's gonna
you
work,
can believe it.
yeah.
All right.
It's gonna work. That worked.
Yeah.
And with
Okay.
these first
It worked.
successful
It was
tests
great.
now having proven out the project's ability to simultaneously operate 2 star systems across 2 DGSs on a single shard, the time was fast approaching to test the other core functionality of server meshing technology.
And then
The subdivision of an entire star system
Everything
across
shit the
multiple
bed.
servers.
We'd done the jump gates, so we focused on just having the Stanton system again, but this time we split
This is basically where they hit the wall.
the Stanton system between multiple DGSs.
It's super exciting now to finally deliver on what I think a lot of people's vision of server meshing is, which
I just can't wait to see how they communicate this, because this is the wall that we have hit that we haven't really broken through yet, because we haven't had any new like really new server meshing tests to prove that they've done some good work on the data that they gathered last time. I'm sure they have, but we haven't had a test. So I should say the theoretical wall, the wall that we see that they may be breaking through internally, but since we haven't had a test to see the improvements, it feels like a wall instead of it actually being a wall. So yeah.
which is a single solar system being divided into multiple areas that are all being managed by multiple DGSs.
We were once again really, really nervous about how this is going to work. The subdivision of Stanton up into multiple servers is technically a risky thing to do.
So the way that we did that is we kind of carved up the Stanton solar system into what we call territories, and then we'd assign those territories to different numbers of DGSs. And
They did such a unexpected one for me. Like I didn't know that they were gonna split like planets up and space up. It was
while
so
we were doing that, we also
interesting.
tried increasing the player cap. We tried 2 DGSs, 200 players, 3 DGSs, 400 players, 4 DGSs, 400 players, and then we just decided to go a bit nuts, and we tried 6 DGSs and 800 players. And that was really to stress the system, test server crash recovery, and kind of, get all the performance information about how the hybrid service is able to handle
For me, 4, 6, and 800 were all just not good.
these higher numbers of DGSs and higher numbers
But specifically 6 and 800 were
of
terrible.
players.
And seeing 800 players in a shard and seeing the screenshots on Reddit, very, very exciting to see that what we had made was capable of that, though there's certainly improvements to be made.
We actually exposed a bug during that one where you would drop out of quantum travel right at the transition point.
When someone would transition across that border, they would just vanish. So yeah, it made it very obvious where the borders are.
All the backers were like, oh, we know where the server boundaries are.
That was accidental, but it provided us a fantastic testing opportunity because people could really hammer all sorts of crazy conditions at the boundary to see, shooting other ships across the boundary and all throwing cargo boxes across and watching it all largely work.
Shooting across it, EVA-ing across
how many experiences did it work for you, guys? My issue is every test that I was able to do it, like I'd seen videos where it worked. For me, I unfortunately, all the places that I had it were on the gravity well ones. So it worked, but you never got to see it work. And what I mean by that is you if you even shot a laser across the server boundary, it would be caught in the spinning planet and your laser would just go the other direction. So you almost couldn't see it. Anything you shot across the server boundary, it just launched away. So I kept trying. My entire test was to get the a situation where like two people can be on either side of the boundary and they wouldn't be floating away. And we just never really got that experience. We had a lot of issues where it just didn't work. Worked for Burks. I mean, hey.
Lots of testing that we weren't really expecting to get out of that actually happened, and for the most part it held up really well.
This configuration of star systems broken up into multiple territories.
I'm sorry, I just would not have considered that like as wide of a success as they're selling, as other people have said. My experience just wasn't that great, I guess. I don't know.
Each containing one or more parts of the playable space, like a planet or moon, distributed between whichever number of DGSs are available, and spreading the simulation workload across all the DGSs in the mesh, is what will one day allow us to seamlessly move or transition players throughout the galaxy without immersion-breaking loading screens. But with this first series of tests now completed, it was time to step back and ready the replication layer split and server crash recovery for Alpha 3.23.
You know, I watch a lot of streamers and videos, and everyone was really, really happy, and that makes me happy.
I'm sorry. Well, he doesn't watch me then. Wait, I just realized if he said everyone was really, really happy, he definitely doesn't watch me, so I don't have to apologize.
That makes me motivated to do my job.
When the RL split went out in 3.23, we didn't see too many problems.
No, I was very happy with the replication layer split stuff, so.
Things seem to be working very, very well, and I believe that's largely can be attributed to the amount of testing that we've done, kind of leading up with the backers and with the public.
When General QA was testing it, when they first got their eyes on it, they basically, you could hear a pin drop when they were testing it. It was so quiet. People were so worried about it. And then when the test was over, they were floored, essentially. They didn't realize that that tech had already been put into the game, and it was actually pretty incredible that it worked so well.
The server recovery stuff was always something we have to get into Star Systems to make the whole thing work. The crash recovery stuff required a lot of work on the game team side of things just to make sure that their systems is compatible, so that when we do have the crash recovery, their systems will recover along with the actual server.
Which they haven't done yet, but okay.
It's a testament to our approach to all of this with Tech Preview.
We're looking at you, Elliot. Looking at you.
With getting all of this out into the hands of the backers super early. It's given us an environment and a place to mature this tech. So at the time that we came around to delivering it for real in the live release with 3.23, we had really good confidence that it was going to work, that it was going to be a good experience, and I think for the large part that's been true.
With Alpha 3.23 now out, there's still work to be done, and a new series of trials have already begun by the time this episode airs.
Between now and 4.0, we've got a lot of work to do, both on the tech side of things within the core tech group, with the teams who are actually working on server meshing. There's a lot of work to do on the game side of things. We've got to work with the game teams very, very closely. Pretty much every system in the whole game is affected by server meshing to some extent.
More tech previews in the lead up to 4.0. That should help us harden like some subdivision, multi-system split, and kind of see where we can kind of push things.
Every time.
Okay, I mean, like, here's for me. There were some really good things about the original test. There were some not so good things about the original test, but we have not had a test since then to show us that they've improved on those not so good things or built up those good things. I'm just excited to see those. So I like, you know, we're 19 minutes into a 23-minute video, but I think the most important bit of information is right here. We're like, so when are you going to do this shit?
time they bump up the test, like more and more people, I'm just like, oh, now they're going to find more stuff that we don't know about. Oh no, there's more work coming.
My team's also improving tooling as well, making sure the health of the content is and the world we're building is the best it can be.
Ultimately, these steps between now and Alpha 4.0 and the continuing work beyond are only made possible by the support of fellow developer and tech preview tester alike. And it's these efforts that keep the teams moving forward towards these difficult but attainable milestones.
Has there ever been a point in the last 5 years where you lost faith?
No.
Really?
No, yeah, no. I mean, there have been some, it's been a bit rocky at times, but I never lost faith because I believe in the tech.
I don't think we could have done this anywhere else. Nowhere else would have the patience to really develop this kind of tech on the promise of something that might happen.
I don't think there is another game company on the planet that can do what we're doing. We can take risks to produce.
Yo, this is so fucking funny. We literally just watches the Ashes of Creation video that said the same shit about the same exact tech.
Amazing technologies that other game companies simply can't take. I'm pretty convinced that this could be doing anywhere else.
Might sound like we're really confident with how well Tech Preview has been going, because we are, but we're honestly amazed at how smoothly a lot of this has gone. Always room for improvement, of course, and there's always things that we wish had gone better. But by and large, we're really impressed with the maturity of the tech so early on. How well it performed under really heavy load in a real environment.
This is an incredibly exciting time for me. I personally have been working on this for almost 10 years. All the little bits and pieces that we've been doing have all been...
So this is Clive, CIG. If you've been around for a long time and have seen the Spectrum posts about server meshing, it's always been him for the most part. So, yeah. And he's always been really open and honest with us. Like, hey, it's probably not going to work. He's like one of the few people that have just been like even in this video, he was like, this is the only company that would like give me the patience to hopefully something will work, but like no guarantees, you know?
Up to this year's been fantastic and actually seeing a lot of it all come together.
Meanwhile, Letters for the Chairman, marketing, and everybody has been guaranteeing it to the player base for 10 years, but there you go.
You know, the jigsaw puzzle's virtually complete now. There's just the last few pieces to put in. It's just been amazing to actually see all this work, all this effort that we've put in actually come together. And to be able to put it in the hands of our backers and, you know, get their feedback and, you know, have them experience what this could mean for the game. It's amazing.
Star Citizen Alpha 4.0 will be the first time a server mesh consisting of multiple DGSs with many territories and even multiple star systems makes its way to the live game environment. This represents an enormous step forward towards our goal of making Star Citizen into a massive, seamless, persistent universe. After 4.0, we'll continue to push this first version of server meshing, gradually increasing the number of DGSs within the mesh and the number of players this technology can immediately support. But to fully unlock the potential of the work being done, beyond that, we'll pursue dynamic server meshing, where the distribution of players and entities that get streamed in on the DGSs are managed according to server load. All in all, the journey to server meshing started nearly 10 years ago and will continue to evolve beyond its debut in this year's Alpha 4.0. And we invite you to continue following along with this progress in the Tech Preview channel, where you can help to ensure the best possible future for its development, as well as keep folks like the UK Network team, just one of the many groups dedicated to bringing this technology to life, energized and empowered to make this dream a reality. For Inside Star Citizen...
Is this year realistic? Guys, they've been saying like late next year for 4 years. Like, it doesn't matter what they say. When it's on your computer, it'll be there. Like, who fucking cares at this point? If we're really going to take what these guys say and just put it on a pedestal and all the time and just believe, like, I'm done. Like, I didn't even hear it. I didn't even hear what he said. I only know that he said this year because you guys started saying it. I was literally tuning it out. Because I'm just like, I just tune it out now.
I'm Jared Huckabee. Thanks for letting us share the people and process of game development with you, and we'll see you all here next week.
It just doesn't matter. All right, no sneaky thing at the end. So that was it. Guys, CIG and Intrepid Studios are doing things that no other game studio can do, which are the exact same thing. So interesting, but I guess slightly different ways. But yeah, so for me, the only thing that matters about this conversation is that we're getting more tech preview tests, because that's the only way that the player base can tell if it's working or not. You could tell us it's working. You could say you did it. You could say anything you want. But in the end, it's about me jumping through a jump point, me crossing a server line, and there not being any issues. The player cap going up, the server performance going up, right? That's the thing. It has to be measurable by the player. And I think it was measurable by the player in some of the server meshing tests. There's some cool shit, and there was some bad shit. And we'll just have to see what happens in the next one. And that's been my thought process about this the entire time, is they got to just keep hammering out tests, keep breaking shit, and we keep breaking stuff, they keep fixing it, and eventually we'll have a better experience. But